A and S. I imagine Marcia Douglas as a child, anxiously waiting just outside her school that has no library in Kingstown, Jamaica. The typically quiet, observing girl has been antsy and distracted all day, thinking about the book bus that's just rolling up, filled with novels and stories so different from the encyclopedias she has at home. Marcia carefully selects one, takes in the cover, whispers the title, opens it, and dives in. Then, walking home with her nose in the pages, she hears her mother's voice, the neighbors laughing, reggae in the air, a dog's bark, the chatter and din that won't distract her, but become the sounds that someday will fill her well of language.
This book is The Marvelous Equations of the Dread.
I can't imagine the joy that Marcia holds as she's writing. Marcia is an award-winning author and hybrid artist who sits in the play of vivid linguistic flavor. The intimacy with which she writes about her childhood home of Jamaica, St. Bob Marley, the taste of tamarind, saltfish fritters, and the holiness of a shoe shine, doesn't just pull you along, but pulls you into her journeys. While so many authors write about the isolation and loneliness of writing, Marcia insists that she sits at the desk in full community with ancestors, memories, and the characters that she spins from these spaces. Anders, oh, I just love her, and I know you will too. On The Ampersand, we call this bringing together of the impossible the alchemy of anding. Together, we'll hear stories of humans who imagine and create by colliding their interests. Rather than thinking of and as a simple conjunction in that conjunction-junction kind of way, we will hear stories of people who see and as a verb, a way to speak the beautiful when you intentionally let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. As St. Mary Oliver asks, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Oh, I love this question. When I'm mothering, creating, and collaborating, it reminds me to replace a singular idea of what I think I should become with a full sensory verb about experiencing. I'm Erica Randall. And this is Marcia Douglas on The Ampersand.
So I'm going to read from the section Kingstown Ring Tune, and that's the section where there are all of these children's voices. And I'm reading a section called Boy with a Water Gun in His School Bag. See me here standing at the bus stop, and I don't really want to go to school because I was too hungry last night to study my 7 times. And today, Miss going to make us recite it. Government say not to beat us, but Miss have a ruler, and sometimes if you don't careful, you feel it sting your shoulder. I have a play gun in my school bag. It look real, and come recess, I going to shoot myself with it. Anyway, I standing at the bus stop thinking on the gun when a man bend down and start clean my shoes. Quick time I move and say, what you doing? And he said, just cool. And he take out a brush and start shine my shoes. Same so, like is that he born for. He look up at me and say, 7 is a number in arithmetic. And he's like, he read my mind and know all my worries, just like that. The brush have some bristles that massage under my skin, and he shine and shine, and I don't want him stop, for each time he move the brush is like me make from the number 7. Every little bit of me come in 7s. 7 is the number of greatness, him say. And me feel the number 7 just a multiply inside me, past 7 times everything, and is like me going on too. The numbers can't stop. No end to the number 7. No end to my greatness, and ever sound that tremble like an electric guitar string. 7 is the number of greatness, the man say again. You feel how great you is? And the greatness don't stop. It just a multiply and multiply, and it go all the way out to a place don't have no edge, and that make from the same thing that sound make from, where belly laugh come from, and music, and baby cry. I start to cry too, and the cry turn into a laugh, and the laugh can't stop. It just multiply like the 7s. And when the man finished shine my shoes, the little maps at his ears jingling on and on like a dub thing, and he said, "That's how great you is." I late, but I go to school in time for Miss and her 7 times drill. Miss call on everybody 1-1, and when she get to me, she point with her ruler and says 7 times 7, and I say 49, Miss. Miss, do you know the number 7 is the number of greatness? For by now I can carry 7 to the place of arithmetic. For it's like I fill with more than stars in the sky. And it's like the good thing I fill with can't stop. It go on, and I know all the numbers. I just counting them like Lucky Jack 7s. My uncle is a 7-day Adventist, but their 7s don't multiply. It's stop and start, stop and start. This 7 go on and on like a cup of water that have no bottom, like shine things in the sky that can't stop, like a pomegranate that can never run out of seeds. Every time you spit one out, you find more, like playing in soap water and the bubbles coming up. I get to find me is the number 7, multiplied over and over. No end to me, no stopping me. And no matter what Miss ask, is me the number, me the factor, me the product, me the answer. Miss coming back down the row of desks, and when she get to me again, she say, 7 times 12? And I say, 84. Then I look at her and I say, but Miss, 84 really too small for how great I am and how great you is. And Miss look at me like she want faint, and she say, but Jesus.
Oh, it's even better out loud.
Yeah, thank you. There's a little story behind this story.
I want to hear it because it feels like a magic spell. The whole time it feels like you're just cooking up something to an end that I couldn't have imagined until I'm there. And then I'm like, yes, it's so inevitable and it's so mysterious.
Yeah, it's one little story within the story of the book that I wrote rather spontaneously, and it came out of me, and it's rooted to an experience I had when I was a little girl in school in Jamaica.
Oh, tell me.
And I think this would have been maybe grade 3. And I did have a teacher who would drill us with our multiplication tables.
Did she have a ruler?
She didn't have a ruler, but what she had was a wire strap.
Ooh, worse.
And at that time in Jamaica, they were allowed to beat the children in school. And so just as in this story, she would go down the rows and she would point to you, and you had to answer really quickly. And if you didn't get it right, you would get a slap on your back. And I remember her coming to me and she said, 7 times 7. And I was just so scared. I couldn't say it. I couldn't say 49.
But you knew it.
I knew it, but I couldn't say it. and she gave me a whip on my back with her.
So you gave it.
Rubber
so you
strap.
gave it back to her in this chapter and to yourself.
Right. It just came out, and I wasn't expecting it. I wanted to write a children's story, and somehow this emerged in the voice of this little boy. So it's not me, but there's a little bit of me in it.
It's a ventriloquist act.
Yeah, in a certain kind of way.
Yeah. It's such a gift when you hear the stories of writers. I love to read memoir next to fiction and go, that that was your mother? I thought it was the best friend of the girl in the book on the street in that moment. Your characters are all not haunted, but inhabited, maybe. Do you feel like you're bringing back your stories through them or your ancestors, or is it sometimes you're overtaken like that and you write a story and suddenly there you are, but it's not intended? It's just comes through?
I would say it's not intended.
Okay, yeah.
Things happen. There are nice surprises along the way.
Yeah, you surprise yourself.
Right. You're right. I surprise myself. As a writer, you plan certain things and you have certain intentions of what you want to write. But in the end, I think that a lot of times your characters emerge and they tell you the story.
They reveal.
Exactly. And that's part of the fun and the joy of writing a story.
Is listening to the story.
Right, listening to the story. Every day is a little bit of surprise when you return to it and you see where it's going, and that's how it emerges. That's how it comes along.
So you've had this really incredible life with objects, and it feels primary in my research of you, and maybe not, but maybe it's one of the many threads of your stories. But I recalled you talking in an interview about how when you came from Jamaica to this country as a teenager, you had $10, but what stood out to me was that your mother wrapped it in toilet paper. Right. And it was the mention of the toilet paper that held me to your story and to the importance of what the thing was and what the thing wasn't. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to me about objects and their role in your life? And also, did you keep the toilet paper? You spent the $10. But the tissue, is it tucked in somewhere with the ticket, the return trip?
Right. I did not keep the toilet paper. The $10 got spent very quickly.
Yes, it did.
Because that's all that I had. I think her impulse to wrap it in the toilet paper had to do with the fact that at the time there was some government regulation that you were only allowed to take $50 out of the country. Right. And she had $10. That's all she had in US money. So she wrapped it in this piece of toilet paper safely. And that's what I had. Yeah. And the ticket I still have.
You do. Where does it live in your life?
The ticket is housed in a little file with important papers, yes. Right? Yes. And that was meant to be my return ticket to go home. But I ended up not returning home. And I was an undocumented immigrant for many years. Mm-hmm. I kept the ticket, though, and I still have the ticket. When you're undocumented, every little bit of paper is important somehow, At least that was my experience.
It felt like safety. It felt like identity.
Yeah, identity and this need to hold on to something that you might need, and that somehow is evidence of your existence, that documents you, yes. That does document you in a certain kind of way. So I think that was part of it, holding on to this ticket even long after it had expired. But it also, if I'm to be my own psychoanalyst, I would say that it had something to do with a reminder of where I started, where I was from. And even though the ticket has long expired, also a reminder that you can always return in some kind of way.
And you do in memory and in word.
Yes.
Is it easy for you to return to the characters, to the clock tower, to the tree that was imagined or real, to the language, to the rhythm, to tone? Are there places in your body that you hold, those stories or those memories that are easy to return to? Or do you have to really kind of go into a state, or do you go back to Jamaica, visit, kind of take in and then return to the page? How does that live with you? How does your past stay in your present?
Yeah, it's easy for me to return. You can't always return physically, but, home is a physical place, but also a spiritual place as well. And it's a place inside of you. So I return in that way. And writing for me is also a way of returning home. That's how I return home. That's how I go back to Halfway Tree and interact with all of those characters. That's me literally going home.
Yes.
Yeah. So
thank you for taking us with you so clearly. I mean, I have never been to Jamaica, and many of the stories I've heard are from Midwesterners who take trips for spring break, and it's a very different reality. Right. You tell a story that is, or stories, plural, in your electricity. That was your dissertation. Can you say that full title? That was...
No, that wasn't.
That was your first book of poetry.
It was my first book of poetry. Okay. Electricity Comes to Cocoa Bottom.
Yeah. So there are stories there and poems there, and then in this, The Marvelous Equations of the Dread, that hold juxtaposition of a place and of home, right, so close that they are necessary. The beauty and the devastation that can come, the detail of what's left after a storm that makes one want to go, even though there's just been devastation. Yeah. You hold all of those parts next to one another. Is that how it was for you growing up in Jamaica, that everything is so close?
Growing up as a young person, I was always very observant, And
were you a writer or just a watcher?
I was a watcher, a writer in the making. Yes. I was a watcher, and I think earlier on you were talking about detail, and that's where my relationship to detail started, maybe just by being a quiet child who would observe people and things and pay attention. And so I think that I was definitely a writer in the making, because that's what you do as a writer in part. You pay attention. Yes. That's really important. So yeah, that was my world. And I actually didn't grow up even with a lot of books.
You didn't?
No, I did not.
So you mentioned in one interview you didn't even know the job of being a writer was possible. You were pre-med in your mind.
Right. Well, yeah, later on. But, if I'm to push back further to much younger days, I didn't grow up in a household with a lot of books. I remember we had a set of encyclopedias that my parents had bought. And I spent a lot of time with those encyclopedias.
That makes a lot of sense because you have this encyclopedic way of holding objects, story, detail, catalog.
Right.
Did you just wear those out?
Yeah, those were my go-to spaces, the encyclopedias. And, at the beginning of the school year, we always used to get a new set of books, and that always felt very precious. Your new books at the beginning of the school year. But I didn't have a lot of, just books around.
Fiction,
that kind of thing. Every now and then my parents might purchase a book for me, excuse me, or something like that. But I didn't have a lot of books. I remember when maybe from grade 1 through 3, I would say, or grades 1 through 4, I went to a school which didn't have a library, but what we had was there was a mobile library truck.
Yes, I remember those.
Right.
Yeah, we called it the bookmobile.
Yes. So this was from the Jamaica Library Service, I suppose. And they came very intermittently, not very often at all, maybe once per term, as I recall, but it was always this big event. And you would get to pick out one book. The teacher would let you pick out one book.
How did you choose?
Yeah, but it was so exciting. And I also didn't feel deprived. Okay. I want to hasten to say that. I felt blessed and lucky that the library truck was coming and I would get to have a book. So that was one source of books for me. So I didn't have a lot of reading material, but I loved to read, loved the language. My other source of language for me would be from church. My father was a preacher, and he was also a roadside evangelist, and he would preach on street corners. And so I think listening to people like him was one of my language wells also, and all of this, you don't know it at the time, but I look back.
Yeah, and then you go in and there it is.
Right. On my development of a writer. And that was definitely one of the pieces, listening to him read from the Bible. And he also wasn't a very good reader either. He used to struggle with it. But yeah, so that was the writer in the making, I would say.
For you, is writing an act of loneliness? You talk about community being critical to your work.
Yeah.
And your work is full of characters, plural, so it feels like you're in with them. Can you talk to me about this idea of the necessity of community in art making and creation versus this kind of solo auteur, which can so often be talked about alone at the desk, hammering out the hard and feeling lonely? Do you feel both, or?
I don't feel lonely when I write. It's one of those moments when I would say I feel most grounded and anchored and happy. Even if I'm writing about something not so happy, I do feel centered in it. And there is a community in the characters as well. You know, as I said, I travel back home.
Yes.
My characters are my community.
Yes, you feel it.
Right. Yes. So I create community there in the work. But there are other communities as well, you know, in the work that we do as teachers. I feel that I'm already in this community of emerging and established writers. I mentor my students. I learn from them.
Yes.
You know, it's reciprocal. That's community. The same with my colleagues as well. So that's another sort of community that I have. So it operates on different levels. Yeah. You know, there's the actual community of the book and what I do there, and also in the work that I do. So it's not solitary, and I never feel alone in that pursuit.
There's something that you also said that really made me think about this concept of anding that we talk about on this show, and that we think with it. It's not a list of like, I've done this, and this, but it's the way that textures come together and weave. And I feel that in your work. Your work, even when it's on the written page in 2-dimension, feels multidisciplinary because of how you're tracking taste and touch and sound and rhythm. And you make the dolls that show up in a book, then you actually make them from fiber. You have then embodied as an actor, directed by dear Cecilia. Do you think of yourself as an interdisciplinary artist or an interdisciplinary, or both, or all of the above? You don't use that word a lot, but you talk around it and with.
Right. I do dabble into a lot of things. So I think that a lot of the work that I do is hybrid in a certain kind of way. I write across genres, poetry, fiction, essay.
All in one space.
All in one space.
I'm so inspired by that.
Writing is my primary genre, but I'm interested in just making and creating. And so, you know, I will do sculptural art dolls or ink drawings or a one-woman show or something like that. None of those things are necessarily primary to me. They're sort of these satellite things, but it's all connected. I feel that all creativity comes from the same place. And I found that it's useful for me to be not afraid of traveling down some maybe unfamiliar paths in the spirit of creativity and seeing what's there and seeing what can happen.
There's something, this is such an invitation to curiosity and following it.
Right.
And that it doesn't have to be good.
Right. Exactly. If you're waiting for it to be great, you won't do anything. Right? So just play and have fun. Yeah. It sounds simple, but that's what it is.
And it also it is let go of the ego and the outcome and the expectation. And
exactly.
Which is really hard for a lot of people, especially if they fancy themselves good at something. Right. It's hard to be not good or be new.
Right.
So hearing about the fun is just... It was what I needed today. The permission to play in the sandbox of your own words, in the sandbox of your own memories, and to create in ways that please you. So one of my favorite things is this silly game that we play. You've listened to some interviews, so you know about the rules of the quick and dirty.
I think so.
I will remind you and our listeners. I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to answer. You want to be quick. You don't have to be dirty, but we do appreciate a little Bob Marley cheekbone reference any chance we get. Okay. Objects in your life that can inspire a story that you haven't used yet.
That I haven't used yet. Haven't used in a story? All right. I'm going to say my mother's hat and the succulent plant on my window.
I love watching you look around inside the detritus of memory and of writing room. A sound and the place that you hear.
A sound and the place that I hear. Oh, okay. I hear the sound of Chronix, Here Comes Trouble, and cars honking in Kingston, and a baby crying.
That's how you do it. Humans listening, that's how you and write a poem at the same time. Okay, are you a dessert person? Or are you more salty?
I'm more salty.
You're more salty. Okay. What are some salty combinations of things that no one would know are your favorite? Like things that you put together that are like...
Yeah. Well, salty. I like saltfish fritters. Have you ever had Jamaican saltfish fritters?
No, but I would like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's salty for me.
Yeah.
Salty codfish fritters. And I don't know if this fits your category or not, but I'm also thinking of tamarind balls, sour tamarind though.
And tamarind shows up in your...
Yeah.
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 And that no, I thought I had an and in it. It doesn't. Okay.
I think I'm not playing your game right.
You are. You're winning the game. You are winning the game. You are winning the game. Okay. Can you make up a title for your next book that has and in it right now? Just make up a title that maybe I'll get to read someday.
Oh, the title that I'm making up. And now I am a boss woman.
That is, I'm making that one up. And now I am a boss woman. That is like right there on my shelf. And I just, when there's readers, when you read about a lady with headphones, that would be me in that book.
That's Erica.
And now I am a boss woman.
With the headphones. With the headphones. Boss woman Erica.
I'm going to take it. I can't wait. I'm going to tell everybody.
DJ Erica.
DJ Erica in the Hizal.
Boss woman DJ Erica.
Let's do it. Oh my God, I can't even wait. I'm just going to eat off that meal for the rest of the weekend. Okay, the soundtrack of your childhood and the soundtrack of your now.
Soundtrack of my childhood. Oh, this is still the game, right?
Yeah.
and my father preaching and the women speaking in tongues and the reggae on the sound system down the road.
Yes, and now?
And now the reggae on the sound system.
Yes, I love. What are the things that you need on your writing desk to get into a flow that you bring to the table to take off into your worlds?
A good cup of ginger tea and pencils and willingness.
Do you write in pencil?
I love journals. I'm in love with journals. I have too many journals.
I have boxes. I need them to burn before my child reads about all my 1990s escapades. I get arrested by my teenager for some that one particular cocktail party where everyone looked around and thought, "Oh, I see why you're here. Yeah. What do we have in common?" Do you have those journals?
Yeah, I have all kinds of. I have journals that I kept as a young person, but a lot of very recent ones too.
Yeah.
Ideas and all kinds of things.
So they're all kinds of things.
Yeah.
They're not just what happened in the day.
Yeah,
in the life
they're
of Marcia.
not necessarily diaries as such, but ideas of potential projects or projects in progress.
Yeah. Do you ever think, oh, where was that one idea? And then there you are, just flipping through the pages. Or do you catalog them pretty well in your mind?
I'm a rat pack. And I keep things, and
I have a feeling.
That's a journal is a good space to keep things. If I hear a word that I like, an expression that I like, that sort of thing, it goes in my journal. So they're like these little archives.
Yeah. I love that. Can you think of the most recent, this isn't the game anymore. We have one more question in the game, but I want to know the most recent word you heard that you liked, that you wrote down.
The most recent, that's a hard one.
A word.
You ask hard questions.
Well, I'm curious. I'm a curious person.
This word isn't recent, but one of my favorite Jamaican words is bunanunus, which means, I would say it means something like joy.
Bunanunus.
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 Yeah.
It feels like something like joy.
Yeah.
It feels... So how do I say it so I don't sound wrong if I went to Jamaica?
Bunanunus.
Bunanunus. In what context?
It's hard to say the context. Language is so spontaneous.
Yeah.
So it's something that you just know when to say it. I can't really prescribe the context.
Yes. Okay, I get it. I'm not. So I will feel it.
Yeah, you'll feel it.
I'll feel it.
Yeah. Language is feeling, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So a blessing. You want to send your students off graduation, or you want to send your daughter into the world. You want to send young you into your future. Give us a blessing, or whatever you want to call it, that starts with and says, and may the moment that you da 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 da, or and. Yeah, it's yours.
And you are enough. And you are enough. And you are enough. And you are here now. And you are enough.
And that was Marcia Douglas, Professor of Creative Writing from the University of Colorado Boulder. For more about Marcia, see our show notes. The Ampersand is a production of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Colorado Boulder. It is written and produced by me, Erica Randall, and Tim Grassley. If there are people you'd like us to interview on the Ampersand, do please email us at asinfo@colorado.edu. Our theme music was composed and performed by Nelson Walker, and the episodes are recorded at Interplay Recording in Boulder, Colorado. I'm Erica Randall, and this is The Ampersand.